welcome back. This will be the final episode of the Denali content. So, I can't make Denali content forever. And we've got an elk route coming up. And one more new Denali shirt. I swear, the other shirt that I got and this one, this is the only two I bought. And I did buy my nephew a children's book about Denali. So, and I bought some stickers too. So, okay, I swear that's it. But anyways, this will be, just a general video about just sort of my thoughts about the trip and maybe talk about some of the experiences like, hey, how was the travel? How was the trains? How was the park? How was the tours? And just sort of review everything that I did and just maybe hopefully make a good video that if people are thinking about going to Denali, maybe in 2023 or beyond, maybe just some good advice. Or just some information that may affect what they decide to do or not. So anyways, that's what this video is. I'm going to chapter it up, so if you are only interested in a particular section, you can just skip to that. But this will probably be a long video of me talking, so I will try to pepper it with various images and videos from the trip, just so that you're not looking at me for however long this is going to be. But with that said, let's jump right into it. Just get this going here. All right, I guess we'll just start with the basics here. How did you get up there? Who did you fly? I flew Alaska Airlines, and it was the first time I'd ever used them, and they were great. They were amazing. I did fly first class. From Denver up to Anchorage. I thought, you know what? I've never done first class before. It's like a 5.5 hour flight. Let's do it. And it was great. I mean, definitely lots of extra leg room. And they did serve a breakfast meal on the way up, which was pancakes, which was fine. It was an airline meal. The experience was great. And then I flew just normal, just peasant coach on the way home, and their coach class is actually really good. It had definitely had more leg room than I think standard other airlines would have. So it made me think though. I was like, I wonder if the upgrade was actually worth doing. Is the first class that much more worth than the coach class? And I would actually say no, because the coach class is actually really nice. Like I said, I couldn't believe how much legroom I had just in coach. My flights were on time to the minute. There was just the one flight up to Anchorage, but then I was on 2 flights on the way back. They were on time. The staff is great. I get a feeling that they actually take a lot of pride in that they work for Alaska Airlines. And I don't think you find that in a lot of companies, let alone airlines nowadays. They all were really good. It made me think, I was like, man, does Alaska fly anywhere else? Is it only to Alaska? Because I would take them for a lot of flights if they flew a lot of places. So, Alaska was great. I give them an A. Alaska, you done good. You done real good. So, I would highly recommend Alaska Airlines for sure. All right, well, the next part, and is something I've already made an entire video about, is the Alaska Railroad, sort of my review of that. If you watched my railroad video, I'm gushing about it. It was a incredible experience, but I thought I'd use this part to maybe sort of explain more of how it works and I got the Gold Star experience and whether that was worth it. Spoiler alert, it 100% is. So my train left Anchorage pretty early in the morning. I think we left at 7:40 a.m. And it is incredible. That trip up to Denali where you just go through the Alaska Range is just something else. It is really incredible. And the Gold Star experience. So basically what they do is they load you into the Gold Star cars are these sort of double-decker cars. So the top level is where your seat is and where you are going to ride most of the trip, and it's got these really panoramic, open, sort of like roofs that are you can see out, and Yeah, it's really cool. And what they do is once you kind of shove off, they do meal service. So I got a breakfast service, and then I got a lunch service later in the day. And they get you down into the car below. That's where you go to eat. So they had breakfast going pretty quickly after we left. And the way they do it is they put you at so there's tables of four down there, and they will put you with strangers. So they call it festival style eating. And so you're sitting with people that you don't know, and so you get to talk to people and get to know each other. Hey, where are you from? Oh, Colorado, sweet, you know. So it's cool. It's a great way to get to know people, and I think it worked really well. So I got paired up. So I was obviously by myself, and then I got paired up with another guy who was by himself, and then a couple from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and then the other guy who was by himself. He was decked out in Texas A&M Aggies gear, man. I'll tell you what. And he was from College Station, Texas. So, yeah, we ate breakfast and got to know each other, and yeah, it was a blast. It was total fun, and yeah, it was really cool. So after that, everyone kind of went back upstairs, and so the Gold Star experience gets you not only the two meal services, but it also gets you unlimited drinks, or like unlimited non-alcoholic drinks for the entire trip. So if you ever want to get like a tea or coffee or water or a Coke, whatever, that's always free. And there's a little like drink person like right there in the car. So you just I had to walk like 4 rows back and was like, yeah, take a drink. The Gold Star experience does also get you two alcoholic drinks. So, yeah, so after breakfast, everyone was back up hanging out and kind of just chatting, and everyone's like, so, is it too early to start drinking? And I was like, hell no, it's not. Let's go. So everyone started redeeming their drink coupons pretty quickly. And, yeah, the place to be was the little observation deck out back. Everyone was hanging out there because the weather was so great and the views are so good. And yeah, like all the photography nerds are out on there too. And man, yeah, people had some really nice gear, and so I was out there and everyone was just nerding it up. And yeah, people were, and you could bring your beverages out there, which was very cool. And yeah, it was a total blast. And later then I went back in and we ate lunch, and I sat with two friends that were traveling. One of them was from Huntsville, Alabama, and the other one was from Omaha, Nebraska. So not too far from Colorado. But yeah, so we had some funny stories to share. The lady from Omaha had lived at one point in Longmont too, so we had some funny Colorado stories to share. And yeah, it was great. And then we ended up getting in to Denali right around 4, and my hotel Shuttle was basically there. They show up every day at 4 because that's when the train gets in. So it was myself and 5 other people that were on the train that were all going to the same hotel. So the Shuttle picked us up, and yeah, that was the train. I did take the train, Gold Star again from Denali back to Fairbanks on the way home. And yeah, I mean, it was still really good, but definitely not as scenic of a route going to Fairbanks. I mean, it is when you first leave Denali. You like for the first 45 minutes, an hour, you're still in just this great landscape. And then once you kind of get a little further north and start heading back east, you kind of just get into the Alaska like bush. It's not very like photogenic or anything like that. I mean, it's still fun. You're riding on the train, but yeah. So that was my experience. If I had to just do one minor nitpick, and this is a very minor nitpick, was some of the narration on the way up. I mean, it's obviously very scripted, so the person who was reading it was just reading the script, but like they didn't really put a lot of enthusiasm into their narration, and I get it. I don't blame them. They've had to read that narration all summer long. I totally get it. but it was a pretty low effort on the narration. Which again, fortunately, most of it is not narrated. Like the narration is very little. Like most of it is you just are riding along and then just enjoying it. So, but yeah, I mean, if I had to give just a minor gripe, that would be it. But overall, it is an A+ experience. In fact, it's A+ to the infinite A++++. So if you're thinking about doing it, you should. And if you're wondering if the gold star upgrade is worth it, it is. It's worth every penny. Do it, do it, do it. It's probably mostly a once in a lifetime sort of experience for people. So you should totally do the gold star. Just go all the way. It is amazing. I would like to go back to Anchorage at some point and take the train south, back towards like all the glaciers and stuff. I can only imagine that's an amazing ride too. So, maybe at some point in time. But yeah, if you're debating about doing the train, do it. Gotta do it. It is bueno. So, yeah, the train, A+. All right, so I just gushed about how great the train was, but the train does come with a major drawback, and this is going to be the bad part of the trip, and this is the part that was most frustrating to me, and this was the part I couldn't comprehend, I just didn't understand, and that is if you take the train up to Denali, you are pretty much saying that you're not going to get a rental car. Because there's no rental car places in Denali. So if you arrive there on train, you are pretty much limiting yourself to being able to get back and forth from your hotel to the park via shuttle. Now, the biggest mistake I made was I sort of had in my head this assumption that all these little hotels up there are up there right by the park entrance. They're maybe just a couple of miles away. My hotel actually ended up being a little bit further away than I thought. Like, I thought it was maybe a couple miles, but my hotel was actually about 7 miles away from the park entrance. So, the mistake that I had in my head was that all these hotels are going to be running shuttles back and forth to the park, like, all throughout the day, maybe even like on the hour. So if you ever needed to get to the park and you didn't have a car, well, it's no big deal. You just take one of the shuttles that goes either to the visitor center, takes you to the train depot, or takes you to the bus depot, because all three are separate. They're close together, but they're separate places. And that assumption was dead wrong on my part. The shuttle system up there is really bad and does not run frequently. Like I just said, I thought maybe these shuttles would be running on the hour. It was laughable. Yeah, I realized pretty quickly that I was in trouble, because when my hotel shuttle came to pick me up, once I got there on the train, we were riding back to the hotel, and I was thinking, great, get me to the hotel, I'm going to check in, I'm going to drop my bags off, and then I want to go back to the park, and I want to try to get a hike in tonight, because, it stays light up there so long. And so I asked our shuttle driver, I was like, okay, cool, so once I get checked in, like, how do I get back to the park? And he's like, well, like, what do you mean? I was like, yeah, I want to go back and do, like, a hike tonight. Like, when do the shuttles run? And he's like, well, I could take you at, like, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'm like, tomorrow morning? 11? I was like, okay, well, when's the earliest, like, the shuttle runs? And he's like, well, I mean, if you have, like, a special request, like, I could probably take you, but like, yeah, no, our standard runs are at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. I was like, wait, that's it? And so I was like, oh boy. And I was like, okay, well, are there like, okay, maybe that's the hotel shuttle. I'm sure there's like public shuttles that run like back and forth, like maybe that's what I'm thinking. And no, there's no public shuttles. There's no, that does not exist up there. So I knew right away that I was in trouble, because I really wanted to go into the park early. Like, I wanted to go in like as early as possible. I was thinking like 7, 8 in the morning. And yeah, no, that's not possible without having a rental car. So, yeah, I had to really readjust sort of my expectations and outlook for what I was going to be able to do. Like, I was like, yeah, maybe one morning I can, if I'm super motivated, I can get up there and do like a nice sunrise hike and get some nice landscape photos of sunrise. Yeah, that's not happening at all. Yeah, so my hotel shuttle schedule was twice a day, 11 a.m. in the morning or 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And the reason why they do two a day is because at 11 a.m., that's when the train gets in from the train coming, from Fairbanks. And then, so they'll go at 11 and pick up guests who may be coming to the hotel. Or then the one at 4 is it. So they both coincide with when the train arrives. And that's their only motivation. They have no motivation to accommodate guests that are trying to go back and forth to the park to go like hiking or just go ride the bus or do anything. They don't care about any of that. So yeah, I came to find out later in the trip. So I stayed at the Denali Grizzly Bear Resort, and then directly on the other side of the highway was the village. So the Denali Village. And so I came to find out that they actually offered a shuttle that was a little more frequent. But obviously I wasn't staying there. So a couple people had said, yeah, I mean, I think they go at like 9:30 in the morning. So you could probably go over there, and it's not like they're going to ask you if you're a guest, they just assume you are. And I was like, well, 9:30, like 11. So yeah, it was really frustrating. It really affected parts of my trip in a negative way. And again, maybe it is sort of on me that I didn't research enough about the shuttles, or maybe just me making a bad assumption about how I thought it was going to be like up there. But it was pretty ridiculous. And the shuttle ride, not only was it only twice a day, they charge you $25 for it too. It's not even free. So, oh man, yeah, it's just crazy. And that'll get me to a later point about the cost of things in Alaska near Denali. But that's a whole separate point. But yeah, so I again, if I could go back, I wish. I mean, I would never take away taking the train because it was so good. But at the same time, like, not having a rental car up there also really affected my trip in a negative way too. So it's like, I just don't know what you can do. Again, I don't know if maybe it's still part of staffing where they just don't have enough staff to run shuttles back and forth like as frequently as I would think that they would do. Or if it's just they just don't do it. I just don't know. But it just seems ridiculous to me because the whole reason these hotels even exist is because of that park. You think they would be accommodating to the guests that were like to go to the park and at like 8 in the morning. Like, why? I just don't understand why there wasn't shuttles just running throughout the day. But yeah, they weren't. So. And yeah, of course, there's no like Lyft or Uber. Someone did pull up Lyft that I was kind of hanging out with, and there was one Lyft driver on the app in Denali, but the wait was like an hour and 47 for him to come get you. So I don't know if that one guy is just like making bank like all summer or what, but yeah. So that there's no Lyft or Uber. That's not an option. I did hear there was another thing called the Sheep Shuttle, and the Sheep Shuttle was for everybody. But again, you had to call them, and they would like make it an appointment to come get you. It's not like they just drove around and were picking people up. Like, and I've heard the ride on the Sheep Shuttle was $40. So, yeah, it was a major bummer, and again, really did affect a large part of my trip. I mentioned in the wildlife video that the couple of times that I was in Denali, I really couldn't stay as long as I wanted because I had to make sure that I could get out of the park and get back to the bus depot before 8 p.m. because the absolute cutoff that my hotel would come get me. So if I called them and had like a special request pickup, it had to be before 8 p.m. And there was one night I got back at like 7:50, and I was calling, and I was like, man, I bet you they're going to be like, it's too close to 8 p.m. Sorry. But they did come get me. But yeah, it was just like it made me feel like I had to. I had to basically adjust all of my plans. I had to adjust my vacation based on them, and it's like for the amount of money I'm paying to stay up there, they should be adjusting to me. Like like, and I don't think that's entitled to say that. Like, I mean, that's the whole point of the whole area is for people to go to the park. So, yeah, I just thought it was ridiculous, and yeah, I just can't believe they were still. And then the two shuttles they did offer, they charged you $25. Oh God. But again, I'll get into a whole nother section about just cost of things up there in Alaska. But like I said, I mean, it's such a crazy thing to try to the trade off. It's like, well, should I have not taken the train and had a rental car, or should I have taken the train and you just deal with it? Obviously you know what happened to me, but I just wish there was a way that you could have both. But fortunately, there's not. So, anyways, that is the shuttle situation. It's pretty bad up there. It's not good. That gets a grade D minus. All right. Well, let's talk about the hotel I stayed at. The hotel I stayed at was the Denali Grizzly Bear Lodge. It was again, it had its pros and cons for sure. On the pro side, the room I thought was really nice. It was super clean. I stayed in the sort of big lodge building that looked over the big river behind there. I always forget the name of it, but I'll put a little graphic in here of what the river is. And the balcony has a little balcony out back that has that nice overlook, which I put in a few of the videos here. So that part was really nice. It was super clean. Like, I didn't feel like I was like, oh, this is a gross room. Like, no, it was very clean. The bathroom was very nice. The shower was really good, like really hot, like high pressure shower. Which in these hotels you just never know what you're gonna get. But yeah, that was really good. The staff that worked there were all very friendly. I didn't have any sort of bad interaction with them. They were all very nice to me. And I think I stayed there 4 nights, and I think that was a long stay compared to what most people do up there. But yeah, no, I didn't have any problem with the staff or the room itself. There are some other things though that were definitely weird about the place, other than the lack of shuttles, which I've already gone over. So Wi-Fi up there is definitely not free. You had to log in to. So once you tried to connect to the hotel's Wi-Fi, it took you to this service where you had to create an account and put in a credit card, and it was $35 for 2 nights. Here's the catch. If that's not the catch enough, here's the other catch. One device only. So if you wanted to connect like your laptop and your phone, that's 2 separate $35 charges. So right away I was like, oh, well, I'm only going to connect one device here. This is ridiculous. So I just was like, I guess it'll be my iPad because I'm going to watch YouTube on it. Well, that was a bad decision because then when I tried to load up Lightroom or Photoshop on my laptop, those apps don't run unless you're connected to the internet. So I was like, well, okay, then I'll just edit photos on my iPad because I'm not paying again to connect my laptop. So what I should have done, and I didn't think about this until I got home, was I should have connected my phone and then just tethered my phone to my iPad to my laptop. That's what I should have done. But yeah, I didn't think of that till I got home. So damn. But yeah, so $35 for 2 nights, and then I had to pay for it again for the 3rd and 4th night. So $70 total for Wi-Fi alone. So that was, I thought that was pretty ridiculous. So yeah, the other thing that is a problem up there, and it's not just with this hotel, it's with all the hotels up there, is there is a serious lack of like food, like readily available food. There's not like restaurants all over the place. Like at my hotel, it had a little general store which sold like, just like junk snack food. So like you could buy like a little thing of Rice Krispie treats, or you could buy like a bag of Doritos, or I mean, they had some like Nutri-Grain bars. I mean, it was just like little snacks. It wasn't like food. So I loaded up on some snacks because I was like, well, that I can at least take that stuff with me when I'm out doing like hikes or out on tours, doing excursions, stuff like that. So, and they did sell. They sold like bottled water, which was nice. Of course, the prices on all that stuff were astronomical. I bought a bag of Cheetos that I could just kept around the room. It was like a normal sized bag of Cheetos. It was $8 for a bag of Cheetos Puffs. They also sold. So one of the good thing is the general store they also had a liquor store. So they had a bunch of different beers, which was great, and they had the hard stuff if that's what you're into. So that was good. That was probably the most popular shop in the place. There was always a line for the liquor store, but that brings to another problem was that there's no refrigerators in the room. So you would go buy like a 6-pack of beer and you would take it back to your room and there was nowhere to keep it cold. So I just left mine outside because it was generally cold enough to keep them chilly. So I just left mine out on the table on my balcony. And also, yeah, they did sell like Hot Pockets in the little general store, but each room doesn't have a microwave either. So I don't know if you bought a Hot Pocket how you were supposed to actually heat it up, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was I don't know. It was very weird. So there was, like I mentioned, there was a hotel directly across the highway called the Village. It was the Denali Park Village. And again, I sort of came to realize late in my stay that they actually did have a restaurant at the Village, and it was open to anybody. And I was like, "Oh man, I wish I would have known that before." And the guy I was talking to, he's like, "Well, keep in mind, it's very expensive." And I was like, "Oh, is it like a fancy restaurant? Like, what are they? This is one of those places that only does like game meat, for dinners." And he's like, "No, they have like cheeseburgers." He's like, "It's just very expensive." And I was like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah." They every night they do a dinner buffet, $55, and then they do a breakfast buffet, which you can get like a continental breakfast for like $20, or if you want to get like hot food for breakfast, their buffet is $35. I was like, wow, they really jacked the prices up. I did go over there for a lunch, and I was able to sit at their little bar, and they had like sort of an appetizer menu. So I was able to get like a chicken fingers and like a pretzel bites for lunch and not have to pay like the $55 like buffet fee, but still my chicken fingers and pretzel bites and a beer, I was still almost like $40. But it felt nice to eat like a real meal because there was a couple nights where I was like, well, there's no food. I guess I'm eating Cheetos for dinner. Cheetos and Rice Krispie treats. The Denali Grizzly Bear, the place I stayed, they did have a food truck. They had a Thai food truck. So the first night I got there, I did eat Thai, because I love Thai food. But I can only eat chicken curry like so many nights in a row. So yeah, after I had the curry one night, and then I had drunken noodles like the next night, and then yeah, the third night I just didn't eat because I just didn't want to eat Thai food again. And then it was the next day I discovered the restaurant across the street, so that's where I went and had expensive chicken fingers. So yeah, the food situation up there it's just not very good. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's just part of Alaska and you're kind of roughing it. You city folks who just have your restaurants everywhere. Yeah, too bad. Welcome to Alaska. But so that was the hotel. Overall, it was fine. Like I said, the room itself was nice. It was clean. The staff was very friendly. It's just there's other weird parts about it, and I don't think it's specific to my hotel. I think it's just the way it is up there. So, anyways, that's all I have to say about the hotel, I think. All right, so I did just want to mention, I think I brought it up a lot in the last section, but I did just want to mention a little bit sort of the sticker shock effect of the Denali area. And yeah, there's definitely no $5 footlongs. There may be $25 footlongs, but yeah, everything up there is very expensive. And I think it's just, I think the hotels nickel and dime you on things like that, or just grossly overcharge you. It's because their season is so short up there. Like, they only get 3 months, maybe 3.5. So they've got to make all of their money in such a short amount of time that I think that's why everything is so expensive. Either that, or it's just, yeah, we know you're on vacation and we know you're going to spend the money. So yeah, we mark everything up. But yeah, I mean, food, everything is just super expensive. So if you're going up there, definitely bring your wallet. Oh, and the other thing to bring in your wallet is actual paper cash. Not because they don't take credit cards up there or anything like that, but it's because almost every service up there is you're expected to tip. Like the shuttle driver, you have to tip. And I'm like, man, you just charged me $25. I'm not tipping you. Come on. But I did because everyone else was doing it. And then like I got picked up for an ATV shuttle ride, so I had to tip that guy. And then I went on the ATV tour, and I had to tip that guy. And there's so much tipping, and they only take paper cash, which I hardly ever carry. I just happen to have a little bit, but I am now paper cashless. I had to give it all away for tips. So, anyways, take money too, because you're gonna have to tip people up there for everything. So, and I'm not anti-tipping. I'm just like, some of the tipping is ridiculous. So, anyways, yeah, that's sort of a little bit to know about. Yeah, the sticker shock and yeah, the tipping. All right. Well, I did want to take a section to just talk about Denali, the park itself, and what I thought of it, and just sort of my thoughts about it. Whether I like the fact that the public isn't really allowed in past mile 15 unless you're on a bus or a tour of some kind. Kind of what I think about that. But to start, I guess I will just say that the park itself is insanely clean. Like, it is very, very clean and well kept. Almost, I would say, almost to a scary degree. Like, it's crazy how clean that park is. I'm sure you've been to a park somewhere else where you stop at like a rest stop and you go into that bathroom and you're just like, oh God, I wonder when the last time someone cleaned this was. You will never think that in a Denali bathroom. They are always clean. They are always fully stocked with paper towels and toilet paper and hand sanitizer, and the sinks always work. And yeah, they do a very good job on keeping that park clean and immaculate. They are very good about recycling up there too. Just to give you a quick example, when I went on the Tundra Wilderness Tour, one of the perks of being on that tour is you get a little box of snacks to enjoy along the tour. And it's this little box, and it comes with, like, you know, a little thing of pretzels and a little thing of peanuts and like a little beef jerky stick. And the tour guide made very clear, he's like, hey, when you're eating your snacks, please keep all of the trash on the bus. Like, we have a special way that we collect trash at the end of the tour. Even if you're taking it off the bus to go throw it into a trash can, please don't do it. Everything we bring in, we pack out. Like, that's just the way that we do it here. So please keep all the trash on the bus. And I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. And then sure enough, at the end of the tour, he came down the aisle with all these different trash bags. Like, this one's for recycling. This one's for bottle caps. This one is for cardboard. This one is for actual trash. And yeah, no, they do a very, very good job of keeping the park clean. And I think a large reason why they're able to do that, again, is just because how they have pretty good control over how many people go into the park and how they go into the park. And the fact that the park isn't just a free-for-all. With, like I said, the public can only go to mile 15 in a private vehicle. After that, you have to be on the bus. Like I said, whether it's a tour or whether it's the public bus, but you can't just drive in. So I think that's the way that they're able to keep the park clean like that is one of the pros of doing it like that. I picture what happens if one day they announced that Rocky Mountain National Park was not going to be open to public vehicles anymore, and the only way to get into Rocky Mountain National Park was on a bus. I think this state would burn to the ground. I think people would be infuriated. But the system seems to work just fine up there in Denali. Again, there were times where I was like, "Oh man, I wish I didn't have to be on this bus and I could go do like what I wanted to do." But it doesn't work like that. The other thing that I think is really good about that system is that I think having that control over the people and where they go and how they do it also allows them to not have news stories like complete Yahoo gets gored by elk while out trying to pet it in the tundra, like we see in Rocky Mountain National Park, or the guy who's holding his kid like on top of the bison in Yellowstone, and we all know how that story ends. So I think having a little bit more control over the people allows them to avoid situations like that. So yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, I do have an idea of things that I think they could do a little bit better. But overall, it seems to work for them. And like I said, the park is super clean, so it's hard to argue against it. But I will tell you this: one thing that this park is definitely struggling from is that rock slide that has closed down over half the park. That is a huge thing for them. Like, I didn't realize how bad it is. And yeah, if you didn't know, there is a large rock slide that has taken out a big chunk of road at right around mile 44 in the park. So that leaves the whole second half of the park completely empty and unused. So that's campsites that they're not getting money for. That's different. That's like 3 or 4 different tours that they now can't run that they were getting money for before. And yeah, it's crazy to see. And they tell you straight out that all the bus tours I was on, they flat out say, they're like, this is global warming has caused this problem. There was permafrost, so that's permanently frozen ground that was supporting the road, and that stuff is melting, and so that road is washed away. And yeah, the scary thing is they don't think it's going to be fixed until 2025 at the earliest. So that's going to be at least another 2 full seasons where they're going to lose basically half the revenue that park generates from all the people that go on the tours that go deeper, or all the people that go to the campsite at the very end in Kantishna. Like, that is a ton of money that they're losing. So I feel really bad for them. And the other problem that causes is that right now, the public bus goes in as far as you can go, which again is to mile 43. That is the last stop on the road is East Fork, and the little Tundra Wilderness Tour that I paid almost $100 more. Guess where that goes? That goes to East Fork. It goes as far as it can go. Normally, the Tundra Tour would have gone to mile 63 and then back. But right now, I think they're struggling to figure out, okay, well, how can we offer these premium tours still? And how can we make them different than what you would get on the public bus? Because people would just take the public bus. Like, why would I pay over $100 more for the premium tour when I'm getting the exact same thing as what I would get on the public bus? And having done the Tundra Tour and doing the public bus, I can tell you they were pretty much the same thing. So I think the park is really struggling with this rock slide and what it's causing. It is definitely disrupting a lot of their services that they do throughout the summer. The other crazy thing to hear was one of the rangers was talking about it, and they said not only is it going to take until 2025, again at the earliest, to fix the current issue, but they've gone through and they've already started identifying other troubled issues further down the road. So if they fix this one rock slide, it's definitely not to say that they aren't going to then immediately have problems on this other part of the road. So, yeah, it's a really bad situation up there. And I almost wonder if what they're going to have to do is they're just going to have to come up with a long-term plan to just fix this entire road, just all the way to the very end. I don't know whether that means paving it, because right now it's just a dirt road, or if that means, and then maybe each season they can work on little chunks and incrementally just do it over time. But yeah, it seems like this one rock slide area is not the only problem that's going to come up. So it's yeah, it's hearing the Rangers talk about it. Man, I felt really bad for them because they were like, man, we are missing half our park, you know. So it sucks, but it's something they're going to have to get figured out. I was kind of thinking maybe as an option, you know, I mentioned in the wildlife video that there was nothing really catered towards photographers, like in terms of the tours, or, you know, is there any like photography only, like guided sessions or just anything like that? And there's not. And I was like, man, if you wanted to make some extra money, just offer like a ranger guided photography tour and like make it like small. It's like, yeah, we're only going to take 12 people and it's going to be a premium, like expensive experience, but you're going to be with a ranger who's going to take you in to parts of the park that you may not be able to see, and it's going to focus only on wildlife. Oh my God, I would sign up for that in a heartbeat. I would pay a considerable amount of money for it too. So I don't know, maybe they can end up offering stuff like that at some point, especially if they're missing out on so much revenue from the rock slide causing, you know, half the park to be shut down. But yeah, so that's my take on Denali. Like I said, exceptionally clean. And like I said, almost to a scary degree how good they are about like the recycling, trash, and limiting where people go and how they do it. And all of it is done with the, you know, intent of like not disturbing the wildlife, and they don't want the wildlife like getting used to humans and like we sometimes see in other parks. So I applaud that, and they do a very good job at it. And all of the rangers that I rode on bus tours with, again, talk about another group, you can just tell they love their job. They love narrating these tours about their park. Like that park is their little baby to them, and they are very protective of it. And yeah, it's good to see up there. So Denali, the park, you are beautiful. I do wish there was a little bit more flexibility in, you know, what people could do, but again, I completely understand the way it is. And yeah, that is my those are my takes on Denali, the park itself. So that was a long one, but I think that was an important one. So there it is. All right. Well, I thought I would take this last section to just share some like interesting stories that happened along the way on this adventure, and there were definitely a few of them. So I think the first one that comes to mind was the morning that I was doing the ATV tour, which ended up only being it was okay. It's not what I was expecting. I mean, it was fine. It was fun, but it just wasn't what I was looking for. But so yeah, the morning of the ATV tour, fortunately, the ATV tour company was coming to pick me up from my hotel, so I didn't have to try to get to like a shuttle or anything like that. So yeah, the guy showed up and picked me up, and we were driving down the highway towards Healy, which is where the tour was based out of. And I was just telling him, yeah, like how the things had been going so far, and that I was really into wildlife photography. And he's like, oh, cool. He's like, yeah, obviously it's a good place for it. And I was like, yep. So we're just going along, and then all of a sudden he just slams on the brakes and pulls off to the shoulder. And I was thinking, because we were just talking about like wildlife photography, I was like, oh, maybe he saw like a moose, and he's like pulling over for me to take photos. No, not even close. And next thing you know, he puts it in reverse. Now we're backing up down the freeway or down the highway on the shoulder. And I was like, what is he doing? And I'm like looking back to see like, what is he doing? He's like, oh, I just saw hitchhikers. We should pick them up. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, oh yeah, hitchhikers are great because you're always going to get a great story out of these guys. He's like, yeah, there's like 3 of them. Let's go get them. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I was the only one in this big bus. So yeah, you might as well. I mean, it was like a cargo van. So sure enough, the door opens and these 3 kids, they must have been like, I don't know, in their 20s, jump on the bus, and they're like, oh, thank you for stopping. And I noticed one of the kids is holding his little hitchhiker sign. His little cardboard sign said, Frankfurt to Fairbanks. And I was like, oh, are they German? So, sure enough, the driver was like, oh, where are you guys from? And they're like, oh, we're from Germany, and we are hitchhiking from Anchorage to Fairbanks. And yeah, it was these three German kids. Two of them were from Berlin, and one was from Frankfurt. And basically, their story was they were hitchhiking from Anchorage up to Fairbanks as just a fun adventure, and then they have family in Fairbanks, so that's where they're trying to get to, because they're going to spend a week doing hiking and fishing. They were, all three of them were big into fishing, so they were coming to Alaska to see their, I think they said it was an aunt that lived in Fairbanks to do fishing. So but yeah, they were telling us the story about, so it was two brothers, and the third guy was a cousin. So they were all related, and he was like, oh yeah, the bus driver was like, oh, so how's it been so far? And he's like, well, it was, one of the guys was like, well, we are brothers and family, so we hug each other a lot. And this one guy that had picked us up saw us like hugging, and so he thought we were gay. And we told him that, no, we're not gay, we're just family. And again, I apologize for my terrible German accent. But this guy was like, oh, and he said how he did not, appreciate gay people. And we were like, oh, in Germany, being gay there's nothing wrong with that. And I was like, no, in America, there's nothing wrong with that either. It's just you're in remote, rural Alaska. He's like, oh, no, but it was okay. So we end up staying, and he starts pouring vodka. And so they're drinking vodka all night. And then next thing you know, we really broke him down, and he admitted that he has no problem with gay people. So we come to America, and we are already doing positive things. And I was like, yeah. And the tour driver looks up, and he's like, fuck yeah, brother. So I'm sorry, I tried to swear in my video, but that was what was said. And so we took the German guys all the way up to Healy and dropped them off. So we only had them for like 15 minutes, but yeah. So I went on the ATV tour, and again, like I said, it was okay. And then we got back, and then the same driver was gonna then drive me back to my hotel, and I was like, oh crap. But if he drives me back to my hotel, then I'm like done for the day, because like there's no shuttles. So I was like, hey, how would you like to drive me to the Denali bus depot instead of my hotel? And he's like, oh, well, sorry, man. I mean, like, the job is like, it's like, I could get in trouble if I don't take you back to your hotel. Like, that's what I'm responsible for. And I was like, yeah, no, I get it. And I kind of was like, yeah, I get it. He's like, you know what? Let's go to that bus depot. And I looked at him, and I was like, fuck yeah, brother. So it all came around. So he took me to the bus depot, and I was able to go into the park that day and not have to go back to my hotel and sit around all afternoon. So that was great. But anyways, that was the hitchhikers. And yeah, making believers out of the roughneck Alaskans up here. So but he was right. He was like, yeah, we should pick up hitchhikers. They always have an entertaining story. And yeah, they sure did. But yeah, there was actually I had something tragic happen along the way too, which was crazy. So it was Tuesday night, and I had set my alarm to wake me up at 3 a.m. Not because I'm crazy, but because, okay, well, I am crazy to do that, but because there was a strong aurora going on the whole time I was up in Alaska, and unfortunately, we were just covered in clouds at night. And so I had set an alarm for 3 a.m. so that I could wake up, go look out on the balcony, and make sure, that the auroras weren't like going crazy. So, yeah, so my alarm went off at 3 a.m. That must have been the second night I was there. And I woke up, and I'm all groggy, and I'm like, ugh, what am I doing again? I'm like, oh yeah, like for the Northern Lights. And my eyes came into focus, and I noticed there's this red strobing light just going across my room. And I'm like, what the hell is that? So it turned out there was this red light coming in through like the little peephole. And I'm like, what? Like, are the aliens here? Like, what is all these red lights like out front? And so I like like in my boxers t-shirt, and I go stumbling over the door, and I open up the door, and there was an ambulance and like fire trucks and paramedics, and right as I opened the door, they were wheeling a guy off. I was like, oh God. I was like, okay. So I just closed the door, and I'm like, I think that guy was dead. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a paramedic, but So I was just like, oh my God. So I went back to sleep. I woke up the next day. And I kind of forgot about it. And then I was riding the shuttle, and I was like, oh, hey, what? It was just to the shuttle driver. I was like, oh yeah, I woke up last night, and there was all sorts of stuff going on. Like, and he was like, yes, Scott, the man has passed away last night. And I was like, oh. So yeah, that was not good. So that was interesting. But then let's see here. What else could be an interesting story? We can't end on that note. I've got a great story. So I mentioned when I ate breakfast on the train that I was with the couple from Grand Rapids, and then there was the other solo guy who was from College Station, the big Texas A&M Aggie guy. So he was telling us in breakfast that this was his 4th time up to Denali, and we were talking about, oh, have you seen Denali? And he's like, I have not seen it on a single trip. And he's like, now I know they say it's like a 30% chance. He's like, well, I'm on try number 4 here, so I figure I've got to be beating the odds this time, right? And so we were like, oh man, that's crazy. And so anyways, as the train went along, and as you saw in the video, Denali was visible that day. So everyone was out on the little observation deck, it's like, oh my God, there it is, and taking pictures. And he was mostly staying inside. He was an older guy, and he just wasn't like out on the patio drinking beers with everyone. And he was just kind of kept to himself on the inside. But when we saw Denali, he came walking out, and he's like, I was like, there you go, man. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, all of a sudden everyone had heard his story. So like everyone was kind of like, you know what, let's all go back inside and kind of give him a moment here, And so we all kind of went back, and like, we didn't say like, hey, we're going inside. Like, we all kind of just left him alone for a minute, and just looking out there, just him by himself, taking it in, getting some shots with his camera. And he didn't stay out there very long, but he came back in, and you could just tell, like, he looked at me, and I was like, huh? He's like, it was worth it. It was worth it. And then he went and sat down back at his seat, and he was looking out the window, and I don't think he wanted any of us to see that he was getting a little emotional about it. He was like, it was worth it. And so it was a really great moment. I was so happy for this guy that I barely even know. So he finally got to see Denali, and it was an emotional moment for him, because he had been up here trying 3 other times. And so I was like, I told you, see the odds, you beat the odds. And he's like, yeah, well, that was supposed to happen this time. And I was like, well, I'm glad that it did. So anyways, we will end on that happy note. The Texas A&M guy got to see Denali. He was really happy about it. It was a good moment. So anyways, that's going to be the end of the videos for Denali as well. So again, one of the best trips I've probably ever taken. It was amazing, and I had a blast making all the photos and doing the videos. So hopefully you guys enjoyed them as well. And like I said, the elk rut is right around the corner, so that's probably going to be the next big thing I'm going to try to go get some footage of. So until then, thanks again for watching.